Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Look, I welcome the opportunity to talk about this matter of public importance today, one that goes into government competence or incompetence, as they put it. But I'll just start by saying, look, I haven't been in this place for too long. This is my first term. And I guess not too much has been unexpected in this role, but one thing that's really stood out to me is the collective amnesia of those opposite when it comes to choosing their topics for the MPIs here. Because in the past we've seen them want to talk about cost of living relief when they've voted against nearly every solution that we've put up on cost of living relief. And today they've got an MPI on government incompetence, totally not even recognising the 9 years of absolute incompetence that those opposite left us, which is why that the Australian people elected us to fix up their mess. I mean, I've only got 4 minutes left, Deputy Speaker, but we've just seen 4.5 hours of compelling viewing on the ABC. 1.5 million viewers per episode seeing incompetence after incompetence, mistake after rort. And I made a little list earlier today as I was preparing for this MPI here today, Deputy Speaker, because it's a long list. And in the 3.5 minutes I've got left, I'll start to talk about some of the incompetence we inherited and we saw from those officers. Of course, the Prime Minister, who left the country, fled the country and stayed overseas in Hawaii whilst the country burned. Then they tried to hide the fact that he was over there, and then he gave that horrendous interview where he said he doesn't hold a hose. Then we had the bungled vaccination rollout that left millions of Australians stuck in lockdown because the former government didn't ensure we had adequate or appropriate supply. Then we had car park rorts, $660 million worth of gold medal pork barrelling, 70% of the commuter car park sites in coalition electorates. None of the 47 project sites selected were proposed by the infrastructure departments. Of course, we had sports rorts before then, the Christine Holgate saga, where a distinguished, competent head of Australia Post was essentially sacked brutally on this floor by an incompetent former Prime Minister. We, of course, then had the climate wars, decades of climate chaos, inaction, repealing of legislation that was causing emissions to fall. And, of course, we had the words of the former leader himself, Malcolm Turnbull, who said that the Liberal Party had proved itself incapable of dealing with the reduction of greenhouse emissions in any sort of systematic way. Then, of course, I mean, some of these things in Nemesis over those 4.5 hours, Deputy Speaker, I'd forgotten how incompetent they were. I'd truly forgotten. Thank you to the wonderful ABC for documenting some of their gold medal incompetence. Knights and Dames with Tony Abbott giving then Prince Philip a knighthood in Australia Day 2015, the time when he ate an onion live on television. I mean, what's going on there? Of course, his promise of no cuts to education, no cuts to health, no change to pensions, no change to the DST and no cuts to ABC or the SBS, only to then do it straight away at the next federal budget. We had the former Speaker of this House, Deputy Speaker, Bronwyn Bishop, get on a helicopter for an 80-kilometre ride, $5,000. Then a government that tried to repeal 18C of the Anti-Discrimination Act. We had the saga of the French submarines, total incompetence, spending $5 billion and not even receiving as much as a canoe. We had the total rubbishing of international relations and torpedoing our relationship with China. And then, of course, we see the contemporary example of incompetence. The last 2 weeks of their response to the Albanese government's cost of living tax cuts, where they've called them Marxism, they've had backflip after backflip. They'd said they'd roll them back, then they're not going to roll them back, and now they voted for them in the House today because contrast their record of competence against this one. We've been elected to deliver cost of living tax relief, and we're doing it. We've legislated for energy rebates. We've got huge cost of living tax relief going to Middle Australia and to Bennelong, where 81% of people will be better off. This is a government that's competent and that's getting on with the job.